Think again if you thought Tony Stewart was done creating headlines. In a recent interview, the NASCAR co-owner revealed a few fascinating comments on the new NASCAR, including what he dislikes about the sport and why he's afraid of it. But that's not all. He's also keeping his mouth shut on some hot-button issues. What could Tony possibly be hiding? Why is it causing speculations in the NASCAR world? Want to know? Then stay tuned to this video to the end. But before that, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button for more whereabouts on NASCAR. Tony Stewart is a driver who has won the NASCAR Cup Series 3 times. He's also won the IndyCar Series, the USAC Triple Crown, the Chili Bowl, the ROC, and most recently the NHRA. And we're not even done yet. Since 2016, Stewart has not driven in the NASCAR Cup Series, but as a co-owner of Stewart-Haas Racing, he is still involved in the sport. The sport of NASCAR has moved into a new era. The next-gen car is different from the garage era because all of the cars are the same. To keep things under control, NASCAR has made the consequences for breaking the rules much worse. At the same time, a laser checkline makes sure that cars are following the rules to the thousandths of an inch. But NASCAR has been in a lot of trouble lately because of illegal parts. Tony Stewart stated on the Kenny Wallace Show, "The bad news is that I have something to say about it. I feel very strongly about it. Right now, this is the part of the sport I hate the most. I have a very strong opinion about how they're doing things, but if I say something, it will cost me money and points and hurt my drivers and my company. When I started, there were 2 men in the tower, and each of them was holding a stopwatch. 4 stopwatches were used to measure the speed of 43 cars on the pit road. If you or I pissed NASCAR a week before, guess what happened the very next week? You got a speeding ticket on pit road. That's how NASCAR kept order and stayed in charge. We all knew what you meant. I don't want this to sound like I'm making fun of NASCAR. To keep track of all this is the hardest job in racing. But now things have changed because of betting. Now is a time when they put themselves in a bit of a tight spot. Now you're gaming and betting a lot. They haven't given you a ticket for speeding on pit road if there's no reason to do so like they used to. Kevin Harvick is angry and he says these cars are dangerous. How does NASCAR keep track of these guys? They take these cars back to the shop and take them apart until they find something wrong with them. And there will be something they can find in every car. I think that they're mistaken, but it's their game and they set the rules and we all have to follow them. When I pull up to a dirt track, people come up to me and say, "What the hell is NASCAR thinking?" I play it over and over again. If my cars are sent to tech next week because of what I said, they're punishing the wrong person. They're making mistakes. And they need to get their acts together. Still, the teams asked for a standard car. The car was made to level the playing field and cut development and staff costs by a lot. It was a must. The amount each team was spending was getting out of control, Stewart said. We had to find a way to save money for the sport's sake. I think Gibbs once had more than 600 workers. I have an opinion about the new car, but I don't think I would have asked a company that makes sports cars to make a stock car. What are your thoughts on Tony Stewart's comments regarding the new NASCAR? Tell us in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button for more updates. During his racing career, Tony Stewart went to the NASCAR hauler on more than one occasion for a range of reasons. Some of these trips happened because the driver shared his view, and sometimes he said things that were critical of the governing body. So that was then. The NASCAR Hall of Famer is still very passionate about the sport. The co-owner of Stewart-Haas Racing was honest and said that he is now afraid to say anything bad about the governing body because he thinks it will hurt his team. When you look back on Tony Stewart's career, you can see that he got a lot of fines. The last one happened in 2016, at the end of his last season after he said NASCAR was wrong for letting cars leave pit road with loose lug nuts. The group that gave the penalty was fined $35,000. Stewart told NBC Sports, "I'm beyond mad, to be honest. I'm pissed at NASCAR about it. With all the work and all the bulletins and all the new things we have to do to superspeedway cars and all the other safety things they want us to do, we can't even make sure we put 5 lug nuts on the wheel." NASCAR sent a letter to crew chiefs and changed the rule less than a week after Stewart said what he did. This week, the 3-time Cup Series champion talked with former driver Kenny Wallace on his YouTube channel about a wide range of racing issues. When the host asked the SHR co-owner what he thought about tech inspections and fines for the next-gen cars, things got interesting. "I said this at Bristol when we were down with Chris Myers and Clint Boyer and I were doing the pre-race show, and it was discussed about the Hendrick saga of getting penalized and losing points and crew chiefs suspended. Then they win the appeal, and then the next week 2 more cars go back, and a windshield screw gets cut off, and they lose all these points again for a windshield screw that got cut off. This is the part that I really hate about the sport right now, and this is what frustrates me about NASCAR right now. Yeah, I do have an opinion. I have a very strong opinion about how they're doing things, but if I say something, then it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me points, it's going to hurt my drivers, it's going to hurt my organization. As much as I have an opinion, I'm scared to voice it because NASCAR has shown you can't have an opinion. You can have an opinion, but keeping your mouth shut is basically the moral of the story." Unfortunately for Stewart, he knows what he's talking about. He watched NASCAR's heavy hand last year when Kevin Harvick frequently blasted the sanctioning organization for worries about safety issues in the next-gen car, including his crappy parts remark after his car caught fire at Darlington in September. The number 4 car went back to R&D at the beginning of October for a more thorough check, Several days later, NASCAR announced a big penalty. Crew chief Rodney Childers would be banned from 4 races and fined $100,000, and the driver and team would lose 100 points for changing vendor-supplied body parts. NASCAR recently admitted that the cars chosen for further review back at the R&D Center are not chosen at random, as was once thought. This makes it clear what happened to the SHR team last year, and that's why Stewart is afraid to say anything. So, what does Stewart's future hold? This year, Tony Stewart took on another challenge, when he said he would run all of the NHRA drag racing events in 2023. The 51-year-old racing legend runs a top alcohol dragster for McPhillips Racing and is sponsored by Mobil 1, which used to sponsor him in NASCAR. Stewart has always been interested in NHRA drag racing, even though he has had a great career in NASCAR. He tried the sport for the first time last October and came in second. With all of his knowledge and experience, it's not surprising that he wants to keep exploring the sport and learning more about it. Throughout his career, Stewart has been a force to be reckoned with. He has won 3 NASCAR Cup Series point titles and 49 Cup Series races. He has also won championships in IndyCar, making him the only driver in history to have won championships in both NASCAR and IndyCar. In addition to this, Stewart owns many racing teams competing in a variety of racing series, and has continued to compete in other lesser-known racing series. In a recent podcast chat with Dale Earnhardt Jr., Stewart talks about how his father influenced his career, and how he wants to keep racing as long as he can. Stewart said, "If my dad is any indication on how the rest of my life will be, we'll be okay. He's 85 years old, but he still races a 3/4 mile mini, so I still race with him a few times a year in Indiana with the TQ series. I think the worst thing I could do is stop racing until it hurts me physically or I don't feel like I can compete." Nelson Stewart, Stewart's father, has been racing for more than 60 years and still runs in the 3/4 midget races. Tony Stewart has talked a lot about how his father's love of racing has affected him and his work. Stewart said, "Let me show you with my dad. If we told him he couldn't race anymore, for example, he'd go downhill right away. But he's very active. He has a plan. He's really into it and he loves what he does. So I'm kind of following in his footsteps." Stewart is dedicated to racing, and the fact that he wants to keep going as long as possible shows how much he loves the sport. Even though he's old, he still does a good job and shows no signs of slowing down. So that's all we've got for today. We hope you enjoyed it. Tell us what you think of the video in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in the upcoming video.